I'd like to welcome everybody tonight to our City Council meeting. Tonight's invocation will be given by John Palms, Kingsburg Task Force, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Father, I just pray, and I thank you, Lord, for each of the people who are here. Father, you asked me today, you want me to bless each person who sits on this council, Lord, because they are the leaders of our city. I pray, God, for amazing wisdom for them as they make decisions for the city, for the community, that they would know that every person here, every single person in the city has a part to play. Lord, and they have these five people who have an important part to play in the sense of directing things for the city. And Lord, I thank you for every other person here who is part of the city, who is taking a part in what the part that they play here in the city. And I thank you for each of them, and I bless them. And so, Lord, I pray for this next month as they work together, as they make decisions here, that those decisions would be for the uplifting of our city, uplifting for the care, the needs and the cares for all the people here, for the businesses, for the schools, for every part of our city. Lord, I pray all these things now in Jesus' name.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, John. I'd like to call this City Council meeting to order. Abby, would you please take roll call?
Councilmember Silva?
Present.
Councilmember Pusell Jr.?
Here.
Councilmember North?
Here.
Councilmember Smith?
Here.
Mayor Palomar?
Here. Next, we need to approve the agenda. Action by council to approve the agenda or to make modifications that can be added to the agenda is constrained by state law.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No? Okay, thank you. Next on our agenda, we have presentation. Tonight we have one. Fall 2023 Public Service Award. Building official AJ O'Connell. Sponsor is our city manager's office. AJ, could you please come forward? I have something here I'd like to read about AJ. AJ, congratulations from the City Council and myself. We sincerely thank you for your hard work in keeping our community a safe place to live, work, and play. Having dedicated individuals such as yourself gives Kingsburg an individual asset, especially when it involves the quality of life for our residents and our business owners. You are nominated by your peers for your strong work ethic, professionalism, and dedication to your position. Your commitment to continuing education provides a wealth of knowledge for our community and organization. Your drone policy you crafted is industry leading and displays how you are always seeking new ways to provide efficient and safe service delivery. We know you provide excellent service daily with the Community Development Department, and your commitment and dedication to your position shows the character of you bring to the city every day. Thank you and congratulations, AJ, on this award tonight.
Thank you.
We'd like to come up and take a picture with you, and we have a gift card for you for good causes.
Oh, one. Do you want to do one more with Jackie?
Thank you. Can we do one more with the wife? She doesn't
With her?
want to leave her out.
We thought maybe she just wanted you.
We're a package.
Okay, sorry about that. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, moving on. Next, we have public comment. This is time for any citizen to come forward and address the city council on any issue within its jurisdiction that is not listed on the agenda. A maximum of 5 minutes is allowed for each speaker. Do we have anybody here tonight that would like to address our city council on any issue, not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, I'll close public comment. Next, we have consent calendar. Items considered routine in nature are to be placed on consent calendar. They will be considered as one item and voted upon in one vote unless individual consideration is requested. Each vote in favor of consent calendar is considered and recorded as a separate affirmative vote in favor of each action listed. Approval of the consent calendar items include recital reading ordinances by titles only and adoption of recommended actions contained in staff reports. Tonight we have 5.1 through 5.6. Any council members want to pull any consent calendar items? No? Okay. Anybody from the public like to pull a consent calendar item? No? Okay. Thank you. Need a motion to approve consent calendar, please.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Motion carries. Next, we have regular calendar. 6.1, fiber optic broadband update. Staff report prepared by City Manager Alex Henderson. Presentation by Reggie Gerke, President, Kingsburg Media Foundation. I think it's all you, Reggie.
All right, Mr. Mayor, council members, city staff, thanks for having me again here. I'm here too much, I think, but it's fun anyway. So here's to give you an update for quarter 3 of the fiber optic project. So next slide there, please. So this map was the map that you guys saw last time. There are updates to it. I just did not receive it from VAST in time for the meeting. But basically, everything that was the tan color was what still needed to be done construction-wise on the underground part. All of that tan is now blue, except for this one stretch right here, the Sierra Street undercrossing of Highway 99. We are still waiting for Caltrans permits on that. Last update was they've gone back, I think, on the second revision now. Supposedly they should be happy with that, but they said expect 6 weeks. And that was about 2 weeks ago that was submitted. So hopefully we will hear that soon. Good news about that is that does not delay deployment of the rest of the project. That is a secondary path for redundancy, is what that's there for. So as long as we don't have a fiber hit somewhere else, we'll be okay in the meantime, because we were able to go underneath at Draper Street there. So all of the underground construction is complete except for that one stretch there from basically 6th Avenue to Golden State or Simpson Street there. As for the rest of the construction, deployment of equipment, VAST is finishing splicing on phase 3. They should have that done end of this week, early next week. And then that, as they're splicing, networking's coming in behind them to install the networking equipment. So we're down to about 4 locations, I think, left. We have 4 locations left in phase 3. 2 of which don't have power yet. One, we have a little bit of construction to finish at Bicentennial Park to tie into power. That's about 90% done. It's just we've got to pull the wire through the conduit right now. And 10th and Clarkson was one we are waiting for PG&E on. I actually heard from somebody last week, so that was kind of exciting. They sent me an engineering bill that I guess we get to pay, and then it goes to their engineering, and then who knows from there how much longer it's going to be. But at least they've acknowledged us that we're trying to get that going down there. The good part about the 10th and Clarkson one is it won't stop us from being able to still deploy. It's just, again, another one of the redundancy measures. And the other downside to it is that was a place that we were hoping to put cameras also for the city camera project, but we'll just have one spot where we're not going to be able to deploy yet too. So that's the construction side of things. As for deployment of equipment and installation of clients, if you want to go to the next one there. I already went over all this. Keep going, sorry. We are in the process of doing some transitions. So the numbers here that I give you, we have 2 columns, residential and business. This is like the last update, but the numbers from July are in the parentheses afterwards, so you can see the progress that's made or the opposite direction. So basically with residential, we have 25 active residential customers, and this is as of last week, and I think we added 6 more since then. So had to make it in time for the agenda packet. So every day we're adding a couple more as we go. So we added 11 more in just July alone. Or no, we only had 11 active at the last update, sorry. So as you can see, we're up to 25 there now. We still have 120 to be switched. Phase 1, which is the downtown corridor basically, we have 20 left out of the 39. And we had 39 before, so progress there. Phase 2, we have 60. And we had 57 to do before, so that number is higher because we have more signups. So that's people that are adding services also. So not just ones to switch, but new customers in the process. Same thing for phase 3, 40 when we had 39 before. So starting to make it there. So based off of that, we're about 17% complete on the residential conversions from the existing customers, and also reaching adding in the ones that we are able to connect as we go. On the business side, 27 active. In July, we had 28. I'll explain that here in a minute. Looking at the numbers below, we have 30 still to be switched. Phase 1, we're down to 15 when we had 19 before. Phase 2, we basically have all of them still in phase 2. We don't have all of the construction or all of the equipment in place yet to do those ones. And phase 3, we've been able to convert a few of them. Those are mostly business park customers where we were set up ahead of time already there. So we're about 47% complete there. So you're probably wondering why we have less active businesses than we had 3 months ago. We ran into a little bit of I'm going to call it a marketing issue and a sales issue related to a competitor. We found out after the fact we had a competitor going around and telling our existing customers that we were going out of business and it would be smart of them to switch now so they don't lose service. So a couple of them switched and didn't ask us about it first. So we went backwards, and now they're locked into contracts with them. So haven't quite figured out how to address that with the competitor yet. But I'll just mention that the competitor is a major employer here in Kingsburg. I'll leave it at that. Might be in District 1. But I digress. It's one of the fun things, you're doing something good when you have a national company going and playing dirty to get customers from you. So hopefully that doesn't continue to happen for us. But yes.
Just to that topic, and I mean that's part of business. That's going to be something you deal with, and we're not trying to just push your company on people, but because there is city tax dollars associated with this project, I want to know what you're doing to fix that from happening in the future.
I got with the city manager, and we got some contacts with that company that he's aware of. And I've reached out to them. I have yet to hear from them yet, and I've even talked to some people in person about it, and didn't really get a response.
I want to know what you're doing to educate the customers that that's not happening. I don't,
Oh, I
like,
see. Okay,
how
I see
you're
what
going to
you-
fight with the other
Sure,
company,
sure,
I don't
sure.
really care.
Okay.
I want to know what you're doing with the customers in these businesses to keep them.
So the new customers, when they are signing up, some of the ones that were switched ones, those were from existing services that we had, so there was no contract associated with them. Now the new customers that are being signed up are on a contract, so they're made aware that if they do want to cancel at any time, they have to reach out to us first and have that conversation with us. And we've always told them in that process of a contract works both ways. So if they're not happy with the service and it's not doing what they're expecting from it, then we're failing to do our part of the contract. So, we will let them out of the contract if that's the situation. But they need to, talk to us first about it and give us a chance to fix the problem, not just call and cancel. So going forward, the new signups don't really, they have to talk to us first. And hopefully they are willing to explain to us why they want to leave, and we can.
Are you educating your current customers so this stops? Is I guess maybe my very direct question. Your current customers that you have that are business, they're going to be presented with this same dishonest tactic. Are you educating them so that when we come back, that number isn't at 26 when we come back in March?
Right. We haven't, but we will.
Okay.
I'll send out a message to
Thank
all
you.
of them. Yeah, definitely. It's a good idea. We had one actually call us and say, hey, is this true? Because this is what we were told. And we're like, no, that's not true. Okay, good, because I didn't switch yet. I'm like, yeah, don't. Thank you for calling us first. So progress is coming along pretty good on that. We really, honestly, within the last 2 weeks, got to a point where we can start connecting people in just about all areas of town. We can start connecting. By that I mean building from those spots towards it. Our most current start right now is the 10th and Cam area, clear on the north portion of town. So we'll start there, and we're going to work our way south and east from there, building, and then also coming from Sierra Street north. That's our target area there. And then as that build continues, the next build will start for adding customers. We'll actually start at Kern and Bethel, so the very far southwest corner of town, over by Reagan School. So from there, we'll build towards Reagan School, towards Athwal Park, and north towards Sierra Street and out that direction. So that's where we have the most saturation of what we have for not only existing customers, but also for asks. So we're trying to build into the where the biggest need is first, is the goal. But that's basically what I have for you guys. If you have any questions.
I have a question, Reggie.
Certainly, go ahead.
So you talked great detail about existing customers and some new ones, but what about like the new residential areas? Do you have outreach with those like home builders to say, hey, this is a service that we can provide and work with them to?
Yes. So we have information in Summerlin, which is basically done with construction. And we've been actually hitting that area pretty hard because it's an area we already had built. So we are doing outreach within that neighborhood to build in that area. And then also on the Kings Estates area, we've been in conversations, especially as they build more houses. And when that comes up, we've got our information there for them too. So from an outreach standpoint, yes. The other part of it that reminds me of something else I was going to mention, we actually just finalized a contract today with Fresno Housing Authority. Yeah, Fresno Housing Authority. I want to make sure I have that right. Who is the manager of Linnea Villas and Marion Villas. And we worked out a deal with them to basically be the provider for both of those locations. And put all the infrastructure in place that needs to happen there and provide hardwired solutions for both telephone and internet. And working with them and their outreach to do the ACP, to get all of them signed up, and then we contracted a rate with them too, to where a resident there that qualifies for ACP is going to be getting internet for about $10 a month. So there's really no reason they wouldn't switch, I guess. And Fresno Housing Authority is great because they're going to do all of the outreach for us. They're going to do all of the conversations. And basically I told them, I said, I really need you guys to vouch for us, so we're not just another person coming in trying to sell them something, because they know you, they trust you. Help us out with that. So that's a good partnership. So yes, that's a existing kind of development thing, but we're working on getting into those major contacts that we know can really market for it, basically.
So when's this all going to be up and running? Was it going to be the end of October?
So the entire fiber part of it, all the underground work, should be completed by the end of the month. That's what they're telling us. So with maybe the exception of that one Caltrans crossing on Sierra Street. But again, like I said, that doesn't stop it from working. Right. So then there shouldn't be too much more construction going on and disturbing neighborhoods and whatnot from that standpoint once we hit the end of October. And then you'll just see us out hanging stuff up and going from light pole to light pole and making it happen.
When do you anticipate having most of your residential areas done? I'm thinking kind of specifically more towards like the other side of 18th, Cam to the high school.
Covered by the end of the year. It really depends on where the ask is. So we're focusing on where people that want this free time just customers, and we focus that and that's how we build from there too. So, but yeah, there's no reason North Kingsburg, I know your district, wouldn't be done by the end of the year. Same thing with, I think, District 4 and 2 should also be in that same boat by the end of the year, and then 1 and 5 will be within a month or two of that, so fully built out.
Any question from the public on this agenda item?
Did I miss anything, Robert? Okay.
Okay, thank you, Reggie.
You got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Next, we have 6.2, Growth Management System Rolling Allocation Discussion. Staff report by Community Development Director Holly Owen. Presentation by Holly Owen.
Thank you, Mayor Palomar and City Council. I'm here tonight just to continue a discussion about the 3-year rolling allocation section of the Growth Management Ordinance. Just to review for those who may not know much about the ordinance, Chapter 1609 of Title 16 of the Kingsburg Municipal Code implements the Growth Management Amendment to the City Charter passed by the voters of the City of Kingsburg in the election of November 2nd, 2004. It establishes a growth management system to limit the rate of residential growth in the city to a level compatible with the size, financial limitations, resource constraints, and service capabilities of the city and the service providers within the city. The ordinance requires that applications for allocations must be filed with the City Planning and Development Department on or before 4:00 p.m. on September 30th of every year. And as that 2023 date fell on a weekend, the closing date for allocations was October 2nd this year. One application for allocations was received by the date required, and staff is reviewing the application. Per direction of the ordinance, the results of the rating and ranking that's highlighted in that ordinance will be presented to Planning Commission on their first meeting in November. That's November 9th, with a recommendation to Council as to the outcome of their consideration. So just to discuss why there was a 3-year rolling allocation adopted, that was at the original meeting in November 6th of 2013. The minutes indicate that there was a recognition that the development community would want to have some guarantee that if they began a phase project, they would be able to continue in a timely manner to completion through the granting of allocations at the initial phase of that project. Current ordinance language allows for the phasing, provided that the allocation application includes the number of allocated housing units per phase and the timing of the construction enforced through conditions of approval and as provisions of the development agreement. At that time, there was a surplus of allocations for housing units, and it was determined that that would be the way forward to handle that surplus. For recent actions of the council on this matter, on September 28th of this year, the City Council reviewed changes to the ordinance, and at that meeting, the ordinance changes were approved. Those changes included the following. After allocations are given, applicant has 2 years to get all entitlements, or the allocations will expire, and that final entitlement was a final map. Language that clarifies that applications will only be considered during the designated times, regardless of the number of allocations available. If allocations remain unused after the required allocation meeting in December, the City Council may, but is not required, to conduct an additional allocation meeting before the next required allocation meeting. No changes were proposed to the rolling 3-year option. There was a new language that indicates that if an applicant requires a modification of the original allocation amount, that they must receive approval from the City Council, and that the application process itself requires the submittal of a tentative track map, but it does not need to be an approved track map. It can be a conceptual. So tonight we're here to discuss a request from Councilmember Purcell, and it was directing staff to be allowed to continue discussion concerning the 3-year rolling option for allocations and to place that item on the agenda for this meeting. The 2 items of focus from the ordinance for discussion and possible revision are as follows. City Council may, in its discretion, allow unused allocations to be carried over for a period not to exceed 3 years and allocated as part of a first allocation and or a second allocation or both. Those unused allocations are those which either were never used or previously issued and expired, as provided in that section of the ordinance. There is also a consideration of phasing of a project. The projects may having more residential units than the maximum allocation allowable or available in a single allocation may be phased, and the allocations awarded for phased projects may include allocations awarded for the calendar year and unused allocations for up to 2 years. Approval of allocations for phased projects will identify the number of allocations that will be awarded by the city and used by the applicant during each phase of the project. There is some language about phasing requirements at this point, and addressing also some applications for multiple family residential projects. This time that is a review of what is rather a complicated ordinance, and this concludes my staff report. I'm certainly available to continue the discussion and answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Holly. Questions, comments from council?
I think we could probably throw it to the public if they have anything.
Okay.
If not, bring it back.
Questions, comment from the public before we comment.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council.
Good evening.
Allocations, yeah, 2004, as you guys know, this was put into place, and we've been around since then, and prior to it, actually, I guess. But I guess the thing that I'm kind of curious about, why we wouldn't want to continue the rollover. Holly brings up a real good point. When you phase a project, which our next project will be phased because of the size of it, which will be the Jackson piece. I don't know if everybody knows Jackson piece, but it's west side of Mendocino. It's 103 units. We were able to acquire the piece north of that, and we redesigned, and it really came out to, I think, is a much better design. But however, we're going to, but Senator's already submitted for the allocation. So now, a good example, I hate to be examples, but I guess we're going to be an example, is we get the allocations, but if we can only build 80, but we're got a map approved for the 103, that's where the rollovers really come into play. Because if there was other builders coming to town and granted allocations, let's say for the next year, we couldn't finish out what we started, and that's not very good because you're going to have infrastructure and everything just stop. Just not a good thing. So the rollover kind of fixes that problem, because then we know that, okay, well, if somebody doesn't come into town, but at least there's other allocations that we can utilize to keep rolling. And it's tricky because, that project's, I mean, realistically, with the way the market is, it's definitely slowed way up. We're 3 years, maybe. It just depends. We can't control the market, and that's part of the reason that the rollover came into play. Is there's really slow times, there's really good times, but it kind of helps even all that out. And I think it did exactly what it was designed to do, was to limit our growth in the city, which I think everybody obviously voted for. So the Census Bureau too, they come out with their average growth, and I think we're at 1.9 for the last 3 years or 4 years. Senator's got it there. So the city hasn't, and that was through the years of very busy, really good home sales, right, with 3% interest rates. And, I mean, that was wonderful. Probably not going to see that again for a long time. So it's kind of back to what we think is the normal, plus a little slower probably. But anyways, I think you'll just see if the idea is to continue to control our growth. It's done very well for that, even through really good times. But it has scared off. I got to tell you that process has scared off other builders, because they'll come to us. They want to buy our stuff, right? We don't buy your subdivision. No, we love Kingsburg. We want to build here. We love the community. The people who are buying our homes are wonderful. So we're not interested in selling that. Well, then they start really digging into it, and they're like, "What's this allocation process?" And I know Holly gets it all the time. I know city manager too. And that tends to, they head the other direction because they don't understand it. There's no guarantees. They have to tie up a piece of property now that is, $100,000 an acre. So if it's 20 acres, you got $2 million. And typically they won't buy it unless they know they can build on it. That's just a typical. Bonadelli ran into that same problem. They had some other issues, but that's why they decided to go somewhere else. So that by itself controls our growth. And I'll say ours because it's our city too. But you kind of hate that too because it limits other people coming into town wanting to do things. Now Lennar did their project, obviously Century did, and hopefully there'll be some more. We don't mind the competition at all. Not at all. They bring buyers to us for the most part. And people should have a choice. So anyways, my 2 cents, if it's not broken, why fix it? But it's just me. I'm here for any questions about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks for the time.
No other public comment? Thank you. Council discussion or comments?
So I'll probably go first just because I had it brought here. I want to frame kind of the purpose of this conversation. I wanted to kind of get the council's appetite about this ordinance in general, how the growth is going, because the number one thing that I hear from constituents is that they don't like too much growth. And so when I hear that from one person, that's one thing, but when I hear it regularly, it's my job to listen to them and then to dig into it. So kind of the purpose of this is not like, let's chop all the allocations and be done with it. Let's just stop growth in Kingsburg altogether. That's not the point. the point of it is, this was adopted a decade ago. It was a different time, and I do think that we probably need to revisit this. And, you know, for council's desire, I think that with the amount that I'm hearing, I think it's a good idea for us to just go back, revisit the ordinance, revisit the allocations to see if that's still working correctly for town. And I think part of that may be in some form of a workshop where we talk about it, because this is a very complicated ordinance and growth is very complicated. We don't exactly have a committee for growth. You know, we have other committees that will help regulate that, but we don't have a growth committee, and that is a big concern for people in town. I think that they want growth, but they want growth that is right for Kingsburg, and I think that we need to just do what we can to really control that so that it fits within our framework of our culture in town, which is staying as a small town and not getting too big, not the wrong type of developments and stuff. And I do want to give it to the city manager, because I do see some of his emails where we do get these builders that come in and they want to build these monster projects that are not good for Kingsburg, and they want to build developments. And, you know, his famous quote to that is, "We're not here to make developments, we're here to build neighborhoods," which is very, very important in this town. So I know that a lot of the constituents don't understand this, and we can maybe use this as an education tool. People only see all the new homes that have come into town, and they believe that all of this happened at once. And Kingsburg did grow more than any other town in Fresno County last year. They grew 4%, which is higher than any other town. That's concerning for people, but I think part of that is they don't understand the development process and how long that takes. So I really just want to see what your thoughts are about, you know, not even now, because we're in the middle of this housing element that I would like to see us get pushed through so that we don't mess up that with the state of California. It's like, Holly, you tell me if that'll cause issue. So it's just to kind of start that continue that conversation was my intent of bringing this, to revisit it and see if the way that it's written and the way that we're doing it is still what's right for us, given what the needs of the town are today and what the wants of the constituents are. So that was really my point, and I couldn't talk about it too much at the last council meeting where this came up because it wasn't really part of what we were looking at. But that was my whole intent behind it. So, thank you.
When this first came about, I know, like, I was very much a part of it, not in council, but on the other side of it as a home builder. And we were just completing building our home when this happened. Parents across the street hadn't started. So, like, it was a huge mess to sort through when this all came to be. And it was to keep the growth manageable and keep our town small, and that we can build infrastructure, all those things to support the growth. And I mean, we all love Kingsburg, and we don't want to lose, what is our thing that we talked about, the Kingsburg way, or the Kingsburg experience. I'll get it right. But just like was shared with us with the ups and downs of the housing market, like, not long after that, everything died. You know, all of the building, here we have all of these allocations that were going, still going out, but because of the market, no building was happening. I mean, we have over off of Cam, gosh, I don't know, like 15 years or something ago, there were allocations given, and we still see signs, and there's no building over there yet. A long time ago, where now, because the interest rate, the market picked up, all of that came to fruition all at once. I think starting with now the development, the Lennar that I'm in, you know, and that, like, I think started kicking off where it's all coming at once, even those allocations the builders were sitting on for years. So I think that the spirit of this really did work, because we're just seeing it all at once when we didn't have that growth for 15 years or more, if I'm estimating right. I think we said this was in 2004 at first, correct? Mm-hmm. I think we built like 2002. And so I think that done a good job. I think that the education piece of it, when we're all getting questions or we're like, Kingsburg's growing so quickly, I think the education piece on the history of this is missing. I personally don't feel like we have a growth problem because we've also set many other things in place for each of these new neighborhoods to have the infrastructure. I think that maybe we have an education problem, and I wouldn't be opposed to having workshops to discuss that or really look at it where people could give input to see if we needed to make changes. But just in my perspective of watching it for 19 years, it doesn't feel broken. I'm not opposed to hearing other people's opinion, though.
No, I agree, because I do. I hear about it. But I would agree with Laura. We haven't grown. When this was passed, we haven't grown at the allocated rate each year. I mean, our growth has been kept pretty minimal. But I would appreciate any input from the community, because the community is the ones that they have a lot of comments, and I do hear that a lot. So it's a good opportunity to solicit feedback and input and to educate people at the same time.
Questions, comments, Dave?
Yeah, just to reiterate, the sentiment, we want Kingsburg to stay Kingsburg. I think that's what we all can agree upon. But you're right, it's education, it's transparency, and it's outreach, because I don't think that people understand the complexity of how it is. I mean, I have conversations with people and they're like, we're growing too fast, and I go, but once you explain it, the allocations, we didn't grow for so many years and the allocations were set aside, and go look at some of those neighborhoods that I think are truly amazing, because they have parks, they're set up with space for people to enjoy outside their house, and I just think the neighborhoods coming forward are really amazing. And I look back, back to 1997, when they were building on the west side where I still live today in my starter home, and thank goodness that Kingsburg had that allocation so, people could move into the area and enjoy the Kingsburg experience that we have. So, I'm all for revisiting it because it is, it does have some age to it. So I think that we should educate, be transparent and outreach, and so people can understand the growth is happening. But it really, the 4% is more of like a 1% over, when you look at in totality all those years, it just is happening 4% right now. So I'm all for slow, methodical growth, and I think that we can revisit it.
Yeah, for myself, that is one of the number one things I have heard for several years about, don't let Kingsburg grow too much. Keep Kingsburg. I think in our strategic plan, we agreed, preserve the Kingsburg experience, like what Laura was saying, I think that's on our next agenda item, but, I do want to revisit this also, for sure. When I educate some of the public also on, hey, look, we didn't build for so many years, and it just seems like we're exploding. You try and tell them, hey, but the allocations were, if the allocations were fulfilled every year for the last 10 or 15 years, the population would be, there'd be way more homes than there is right now, And they're like, oh, really? Okay, well, they start to understand it. So the public does need education, and this is a very old ordinance, and I do want to revisit this, and I think Brandon has a good idea here to revisit this and get public input. So definitely, and I don't know if Alex has any comments on this.
No, I think you're all spot on. I think you're in a similar spot. I mean, one of the things we could talk about is, maybe that satisfies both sides is less of a look back of unused allocations and more of just the focus on the potential for phasing, right? So I think that would potentially then give developers the opportunity to appropriately plan their subdivision, but also would require them to, sharpen their pencil and make sure that they have a good plan when they come to us, so that they're grabbing allocations maybe from the future as opposed to ones that were not used in previous years, because just by its nature, obviously they don't get to allocate unless they're not used in previous years. But you have the ability maybe to look ahead, which then would, provide for some decent planning as well. So I think there are options that what maybe helps satisfy the concerns that we're talking about here today, but then also, keeps us in compliance with what the state, requires of us with regards to housing, things like that as well. So I think they're all, I think there's lots of options that we can talk about, and I think a workshop or additional input from the community is warranted.
Yeah, I think, one of the big things with this, I think, is a little bit of the public's trust that we are managing it correctly. To speak to Dave or anybody else, it's not that any of our home builders, I think, are doing a bad job. It's not that. I just think that we need to occasionally just go back and say, okay, is this working? Because if we pull the numbers, Holly, you'll know this, the number of allocations that were pulled for 21, 22, and 23,
I believe that's a spreadsheet in your staff report here. Let me take a look.
it's zero, right?
It is zero, amazingly. Yes, no, no, I'm sorry.
And that's
I
what
was looking at unused allocations, which,
Right,
bobbled back and forth. Yes.
So we've had developers come for 21, 22, and 23 and say, we're not building anything. And yet we have the perception that we're building too much. And I think that's really the education piece that, and I'll be the first one to say, I still am very ignorant to this, but I'm trying to learn it. And there's just certain things that don't seem to make sense, which I think we just have to go back and unpack this again and just look at it. I want to have the conversation. I don't want to move forward with any changes until after the housing element is completed, submitted, and approved. So I know that it may be kicking the can down the road a little bit for now, but I do want to kind of keep it at the forefront of council's mind if we can maybe towards the beginning of the year or even the end of the first quarter bring this back and look at it again and really start to see what adjustments we need to make when we compile the data, if council will be open to that.
Yes, definitely.
I know one of the things when I kept hearing about the growth and I know it's not a perfect way to look at it because the census was done like COVID, all of that, we were still doing some building, but I was shocked to see, I thought we had more citizens than we did. I think when we saw those numbers, we're like, what? In 10 years, it was like almost exactly like 1,000 was I think it was 11, just like, it was like 1,002 or something like that. Citizens, I was surprised because I expected it to be like 14,000 or something like that because it appears like there's been a lot of growth. But when you're looking at the actual numbers of citizens, I was surprised by that.
Definitely.
Can I speak?
Yes. Yeah.
Your North Pacific plan, all the cities should try and mirror something like that because it does what it was designed to do also. And we're fortunate enough to be part of that. The other thing is kind of fascinating. I get asked that question, oh, there's so many homes, so many homes. And then, oh, my kids want to move back to town. Can they talk to you about, buying a home here? So it's kind of
I also just wanted to mention, too, that Kingsburg is unique in this regard. There is no other city in the Central Valley that has a growth management ordinance, and it has stood the test of time and the test of scrutiny by the state up until and including our current housing element, which is really significant. It's not viewed as a constraint to housing, and that's sort of the key that they look for. And so it was well crafted at the time. Perhaps the ordinance is just too dense for them to get through, but I think in all seriousness, no, I think that it is it took a number of meetings to come up with this growth management ordinance, so how to implement, because it was passed by the voters, but then how to do it was not, like many referendums, the actual process was left to the citizens to create, and that's what they did. So
even what was passed by the voters is very misunderstood. I get a lot of people that believe that the voters passed a growth management plan that says we can't grow over 3%, which is not at all the case. I believe the voters just said that we should come up with a growth management plan and then figure it out, is my understanding of that vote. So I think that's even part of the education piece too, is kind of foundationally how this came about.
And it's possible citizens have really good ideas that we could add.
Any more questions or comments on this agenda item?
I just suggest, sort of to echo what Mr. Crinclaw said, and certainly talk about the allocations more, but I do think that looking at the specific plan, because our development standards are really what dictate what gets built, right? So what are the lots? What are the minimum lot sizes? What do we want to see as it relates to elevations? What are the amenities? We talk about these things a lot at the staff level, but that's ultimately what gets built out there is what will stand the test of time too. Because even if you have less allocations, but it's a poorer product, that's not going to be what we want either. So that may be part of the conversation too, is updating some of those and or looking at those and becoming more specific on what that looks like.
Thank you, Alex. So this is informational only. Staff has direction, so we're good to move on. Thank you. 6.3, strategic plan update, staff report by Assistant Manager Christina Windover. Presentation by Christina Windover.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. This is just an update on our strategic plan for 2024-2019. As you recall, we had a 2-day special session, a special meeting, and we discussed our current strategic plan and what our strategic plan will look like moving forward. Our 2-day session was guided by input that our consultant gathered from the community, local leaders, business owners, and the public in general. And so a couple of the things that came out of the plan or out of that meeting was kind of a rough draft of a mission statement, a vision statement, and some strategic goals. Staff has kind of refined the proposals from those meetings and are bringing it to council for consideration and approval. So the first one that we'll look at is the revised mission statement. The new proposed mission statement reads, Kingsburg is committed to leadership that inspires, professionalism that ensures excellence in service, and partnership that fosters community collaboration. Our next proposed statement is the vision statement, and our proposal is, in Kingsburg, we take pride in our uniqueness, rooted in a rich heritage that shapes our identity. Together, we celebrate the past, engage the present, and build a future full of possibilities. And then lastly, we decided to update our strategic goals, and there was some fine-tuning that we needed to do. Ultimately, staff has landed on these proposed goals, and that's one, preserve the Kingsburg experience, financial stability, support businesses, community engagement, and community safety. So we're still currently working with our consultants on a final strategic plan, but as I mentioned, we would like to approve or get feedback from council regarding those 3 sections of the strategic plan. Our next steps with our consultant is to get a design laid out, and then we're currently working on objectives and like sub-goals to the goals that we have here. We believe that we need approval or direction before we move forward with that, and ideally we would like to bring something back to council in November for the finer details. So with that, I would just like to invite feedback from the council and seek your guys' direction or answer any questions.
Council comments,
I like it.
discussion?
I like it.
Yeah, I like it. That, to my memory, from that workshop, it's pretty close to what we spoke about and agreed on, I think.
Yeah, I do just want to explain to people how we got here just a little bit. There was a long, was it 2 days that we spent there?
2 days.
It felt like 14 weeks.
A lot of hours, though, those 2 days.
No, it was actually really good, but these words in the mission, vision, and strategic goals, they seem like they're just words, but I will tell you that group spent so much time making sure that this is how we actually felt. We met with citizens one day, we got the feedback from them, and there was a lot of care that went into this. And I think that's important, that this isn't just something we're throwing up there because it's like a motivational poster on the wall. It's something that we really think is our value structure. It's something that staff spent a lot of time going through and brainstorming. So I like it. I like where we ended up right now, and there was a lot of time and effort to put into this, so I want to thank all the staff, especially for that, and our consultants that helped kind of facilitate those meetings. It was a really good process, but there was a lot of care that went into this. We really mean these words that we're saying.
Just to point out, so the strategic goals, I love the strategic goals because they're not in order, right? They're all equally important. I think that's important for everyone to understand and know, because the group didn't put them like, hey, this is better than that or above that. They're all so important, and they really did coincide with a lot of the citizens that were there and that gave their input also. So I think it was a package that came together really nicely, and yeah, I appreciate the staff and my fellow council members as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Any other comments from council? From the public? Any?
They were great sessions.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, thanks for showing up to those, Sandra.
I know. Quite a few visitors.
And Chris Peterson as well.
Yeah, that's right.
Many
Like I said, many hours, yes. And 2 days. Okay, so I guess we're good on these
You want us to approve this?
these statements and goals, and we can make a motion to approve it, huh? Okay?
I'll
Go
make
ahead.
a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Christina.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Next, we have 6.4, Caltrans Grant Award and Heritage Park announcement. Staff report by Community Service Director Adam Castaneda. Presentation by Adam Castaneda.
All right. Well, good evening, Mayor and members of council. So today, I just want to present or publicly announce that we are pleased to announce that the City of Kingsburg was selected as a recipient for the Clean California Local Grant Program, Cycle 2. Out of 230 applications that was received by Caltrans, our Heritage Park application was among the 42 that were selected to move forward. So the Clean California Local Grant Program was developed by the California Department of Transportation and allocates funds to local communities for beautifying and enhancing local streets, roads, parks, pathways, and transit centers. Cycle 2 of the program will provide approximately $100 million in funding to local communities throughout California. This, of course, is allocated to their fiscal year 2023 to 2024 of the state budget, and has an expected project completion date by June of 2026. Earlier this year, the City of Kingsburg submitted a grant for the Heritage Park Shade Structure and Shade and Play project. The grant was for $168,000. The initiative was to aim to enhance Heritage Park by installing an all-weather shade structure for the playground area for residents to use at the park. In addition to the project, it also includes the installation of pour and play rubber surfacing at the playground to provide a safer and cleaner environment for kids to enjoy. The overall total project cost for the installation of this is about $225,000. So this grant will cover about 75%, excuse me. And when we submitted the grant, there was a 25% match that we were expecting. So the city wants to go ahead and acknowledge Townsend Public Affairs for their assistance in this grant process. They spent a lot of time with staff deconstructing the application that we had submitted in Cycle 1, and just gave us a more robust and competitive application for Cycle 2. And so, like I said, we were lucky enough to be selected. At this point in time, the city staff will be working with our Caltrans representatives, working on a restricted grant agreement. So no work is expected to get done within the next couple months, but once we get those agreements in with Caltrans, then we can move forward with the project. So with that, like I said, I just wanted to make that announcement publicly, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Questions, comments from council?
I have a quick question. Did you want to go, Stace? Okay. I have a quick question. Adam, I went over to the park and looked at it, and I've been there. My daughter used to play soccer there back when she was little, but that was before the actual play structure was there. But the play structure sits towards the south end of like the actual play bark area. So the actual cover, I know there's not a rendering of the drawing, but is the actual shade structure just over the play structure, or is it over the whole entire like barked area that where there would be maybe potentially more amenities in the future?
Correct. Yeah. So the play area is designed, or I guess designated by the cement concrete that's around it.
Correct.
So when the initial measurements were taken out, it was for that entire entire space. That's the barked area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
When you say it's that concrete space, you're talking about the curving around there?
Correct. Yes.
So what are you going to do with those trees that are along the backside then?
That's a good question. I don't know. We'll probably have something to go around it, but usually it's just to cover the barked area.
Right.
But I'm assuming everything would stay as existing. We don't want to rip out trees. We'll just kind of work around it. But we'll work with Dave Peters when the time comes to the state and go through there.
I know we don't know the time frame, but it should be done by next spring.
Correct. So in the application, we put by August total completion by August of 2024.
Okay.
So yes, so we're estimating to get it completely done before the estimated timeline of 26. So.
Very good. Thank you.
Well, I just want to thank Townsend, for their input and and their grant writing in this process, because I know that had to have helped.
Yes.
Was it? We said there was 42 grants out of like 230 something.
230 applications.
Yeah.
Correct.
So I want to publicly thank Townsend, and this has been. I've been asking for this straight shade structure for probably 3 to 4 years now. Yep. That's my district, and my kids go there. A lot of constituents that I know have been bugging me. Hey, how come there's no? Doesn't Kingsburg care about Heritage Park? And I can tell them, yeah, they do now. Anyways, so looking forward to that, Adam, and thank you yourself too on the good work on this for this grant from Was it from Caltrans? Caltrans, yes. Okay, any public comment on this? No? Okay, thank you.
No, thank you.
Thanks, Adam. Moving on, we have council reports and staff communications. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Sandra. 7.1, Community Service Commission. We have not met since our last meeting. Public Safety Committee, I believe we meet early next month. Yeah. Chamber of Commerce, 7.3.
On Halloween Day, the chamber is working with local businesses to do the trick-or-treating downtown. It's going to start at like 8:30 in the morning and go until, I believe it's 1:30, and they're going to have some preschools involved all the way up through 3rd grade. So they'll be trick-or-treating all up and down town, and I think our city staff is going to be Toy Story. Is that right? If you want to get a costume, I have an extra. If you want a costume, if you want to come by, it's really a fun day. You know, we talk about our town kind of looking like a Hallmark town. That day shows you like, just the businesses. They buy their own candy. I mean, it's thousands of pieces of candy that they go through. And they're asking, like they ask starting in like August if we're going to be doing it. So it's really a great day. And that's all I have to report.
Thank you, Laura. 7.4, Economic Development.
Turn my microphone on. We have not met, but there has been a couple positive, economic developments. I think that should be pointed out. There's been progress made at the bank building, so that's going in a positive direction after, it's been stalled for a little bit. Also with the Quick Corner, as we know, that burnt down, but that's going through the planning phase, and that's making some positive movement as well. So I thought it was, good to point those things out to everyone so they know that there are things going on. Oh, and then also Stone Plaza, right? I mean, we know that Stone Plaza was going through their process, and they got temporary occupancy upstairs, so people have moved in now. And then the bottom, obviously, will still be work in progress, getting the restaurants in and all that through the planning department. So appreciate the planning, working with everybody, and yeah, that's my report for the economic development for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. 7.5, Finance Committee.
We are hoping to meet Monday.
Thank you. 7.6, Planning Commission. Planning Commission met last Thursday night. All three of the things that you just mentioned, Holly gave an update on, for the Kingsburg element update, things that are going on in Kingsburg, and then she also gave a really good presentation on the legislative update to the Planning Commission about things that are coming from legislature, that we have to do here in Kingsburg. And we spoke a little bit about site, what's it called, site plan review? Yeah, we spoke a little about site plan review, and it turned out to be a good meeting, so that's all I have on that. 7.7, South Kings GSA.
Have not met.
Thank you. 7.8, Downtown Business Improvement District.
We haven't met.
7.9, Council of Governments.
Have not met.
7.10, Quarterly Council Update of Intergovernmental Committees and Boards.
None.
7.11, Council Member Reports.
I have one. Kingsburg Healthcare District had a meeting. Chris Peterson was there, Adam Castaneda was there, so thank you guys for attending that as well. Was an interesting meeting. One of the things that stood out to me was, as you may remember, they adjusted their policy on how they reimburse grants. And so the new process was pay on an invoice or get reimbursed on invoice. So they ran into a little bit of a how shall I say, a little bit of a hurdle with the school district, because when you go under that scenario, the school district has to come up with the money to pay and then get reimbursed, and the school district didn't have the money for the instruments to go up front. So if the Kingsburg Healthcare District pays, then the school district was worried about, well, the warranty goes with the person who pays. And so there was a little bit of that they are it's a wrinkle that they're trying to iron out, but it was interesting with the dialogue of it all, and so they'll have to try to sort that out and try to come up with a way to where they can work with the grant recipients if that's the road that they choose to go down. So that's all I had to report.
Anybody else?
I have one thing.
Okay.
I think it was maybe the day after our last meeting. It was on a Thursday. I attended the Kingsburg Task Force meeting. I don't know if any of you have had the opportunity to do that. It's a really great meeting where people who just really care about our town from all different organizations come together for the good of our town and talk about what they have to offer. It's a good meeting. It is, the first Thursday? The first Thursday of the month, and it's rotating locations. I believe the next one is going to be at the new community schools office at Roosevelt School. I believe Linda Simmons' office over there, so it's really good. It's well worth the time. It's about hour and a half meeting.
Right. Thank you, Laura. I have one. Last Tuesday was the ribbon cutting and check presentation from T-Mobile, and I believe Stacy and Dave were there with me. Yeah, and that was a nice little ceremony. And I want to thank T-Mobile once again for that $50,000 grant to help with that restroom. The restrooms over there, you know, and the light, the electricity, and it was good to see Daniel, you know, talk with Daniel, the CEO from T-Mobile, and they had a bunch of, they had about 40 or so employees. I think they said they invited just the Kingsburg resident employees that were working that morning, and there was about 40 of them that were, you know, out of their hundreds and hundreds of employees that work. And I'd also like to mention that T-Mobile does a lot here in Kingsburg. I hear some people kind of like, I don't know about T-Mobile here in Kingsburg, and I'm like, you know what? They don't understand that T-Mobile, the employees, you know, spend money here in town. They like to eat here in Kingsburg. They like Kingsburg, and then T-Mobile also spends a lot of money here in Kingsburg with Bella Bakery and buying balloons, and they do a lot here in the community to help our economy. So I just wanted to point that out also about T-Mobile. So, anyways. That was a nice little event last Tuesday, and then last night I went to the chamber dinner, the chamber mixer, not dinner, and it was nice. Stacy was there with me, and it was good. You know, that got to go through some of the model homes there and Holly was there. Got to go through some of the model homes at Kings Estates, and those are some really nice homes. You know, so they're still selling them, so that's the one good thing. And I know interest rates are high, and the price has gone up a little bit, but if they're getting a nice home for their money, you know, if they buy one of those Kings Estates. So, anyways, that's all I have. Anybody else? No. Okay. Oh, go ahead. Yes.
I forgot. We went to the fair.
Oh, that's right.
We went to the fair, and Vince and I went to the fair, and the Kingsburg Lions Club had an amazing booth.
That's right.
And if you all didn't see it, it was awesome. And we went, and they had grapes displayed. They had 2 televisions that were basically showing Kingsburg around town and the different festivals and all the things. So, I mean, that fair sees, 100,000 people? And so, you know, a lot of people saw that, and they had Kingsburg big banner there. The grapes were all first and second place. It's a big fundraiser, and so I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, the Lions Club did do a great job on that. You're right, Dave. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, 7:12, city manager's report.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, just a couple of brief updates. Just a follow-up from our last meeting, the solar financing did close successfully, so we'll move forward with those projects. Be providing updates as that progresses. The 12th and 18th Avenue sidewalk projects, the council approved those contracts, and so they were given their notice to proceed, which can begin as early as next Monday. And then they'll have 45 days to complete that work. So they are noticing the residents as well before any of that work starts. And then there is the high school is holding a downtown rally next Friday, the 27th. That's their annual Beat Selma rally that they have downtown. So that'll be next week. And then Abby and Mike are working on kind of updating some of our language as it relates to our existing committees. So Finance Committee, Community Services Committee, just cleaning up language so that there's consistency on terms and who our members are. And so I'm sure if you haven't talked to Abby yet, she'll be reaching out to you to get input so that we can just update those committees. But that's all I have.
Thank you, Alex. Next, we have future agenda items. I believe we have none. So I will adjourn tonight's city council meeting.